So let me get started with a little bit about Trustpilot. As I said, we're from Trustpilot. Trustpilot, we're the world's most powerful review platform. Our platform is pretty unique in that we are free and open to all consumers and companies while being independent of both. Today and every day here, Trustpilot is now getting a new review written on our platform every 1.5 seconds. And they're really seen all over the internet and offline, over 3 billion times every month that we can measure. And for Trustpilot, more than just a rating, we are stars that signify to people that companies love their customers and those customers love the companies right back. So what we do is we help companies get reviews that help their customers and help people online buy with confidence. People come to Trustpilot to share experiences and build trust and transparency with their brand. And then we help companies leverage those reviews and use the power of those reviews to get seen, get sold, and get better.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Had some technical difficulties getting on here, but Andrew Maff with Seller's Choice. We are a full service digital marketing company for e-commerce sellers. Obviously, we focus a lot with helping brands build their presence on and off different marketplaces, as well as starting to bring them into more of a cohesive strategy. Obviously, that includes your basic social media, email marketing, content marketing, but of course, SEO, just like we'll be discussing today. Perfect. So how can SEO help with brand trustworthiness? So SEO is a big thing on customer acquisition, which is of course what we're going to talk about today. So obviously what you guys see here is a heat map. This is just the first page of Google. No one really goes below any of the first maybe 5 or 6 options anymore. Very rarely do people even bother going to page 2. So of course we have to focus on SEO and doing what we can to get to the top of the page. However, with Google, what they've started to do is with all of their ads and their shopping ads, they're taking up so much of the top of the fold that it's becoming more and more difficult to actually take some of that top area. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on trying to build a really strong SEO strategy to try and get as high up in these rankings as we can to be able to build that trustworthiness so that we can start to get a little bit more organic traffic to reduce those customer acquisition costs of having to spend all the money on those paid ads. So every seller, every person who has a business has a very different reason for running their business. Some of them are just happy with more of a lifestyle company where you're just making what you want. Some people have the other side of things where they're looking to sell their brand eventually. And SEO really helps you build your asset. So this is your website. This is everything that you're utilizing to really showcase your company. When you have an exit strategy one day and you're looking to eventually sell, you need to have a website that has enough of a community, has a large enough presence that what you're giving them is an asset instead of just paid advertising, which is really more risky. Because yes, you have the data and yes, you have all these opportunities with paid advertising, but the biggest problem with that is that if you stopped advertising, sales would plummet. But if you continued to build content and start to focus on your SEO strategy and you stopped creating content one day, it's still going to give you residuals as time goes on. So that's why we see SEO as more of an asset builder and paid advertising as more of a risky, just a cash register, easy win. So obviously today we're going to focus on the off-page SEO side of things. And the reason I have this slide on here of how off-page is better than on-page, everyone knows on-page. It's relatively simple nowadays. It's not as difficult as it once was, 5-10 years ago, where you would keyword stuff as much as you can, and you'd really focus on meta titles and descriptions and all this crazy stuff that you could be doing. But in reality, there's really only so much you can do on your website. The off-page is where it really comes in. So the more and more you can build your off-page, the more you're actually going to improve your SEO. So basically, there is an end game with on-page SEO, but there's no end game with off-page. You want to keep building and keep building and keep building, so it's something you can keep working on.
And from what we've seen here at Trustpilot, we talk to a lot of people about their SEO strategies, with reviews being part of that. And we see, as he was saying, so many people focused on page, but not as many are focused on what can you do off the page. And what we see is you're really missing half the picture. Off-page SEO is huge because there's these constant changes from search engines. And at times you see these changes where it seems to drastic changes in the search engine results as a result of it. But relevance, trustworthiness, and authority always seem to play a role in how people are ranking. And according to Moz, the offsite SEO related factors make up over 50%. And so this is a graph from Moz where they've broken down some of the main reasons that they see. Obviously, nobody knows exactly how Google's algorithm is working, but they account pretty accurately for a number of these factors. And if you total up all the ones that are outside of your web page, it accounts for over 50% of ways that Google helps to rank your page in your SEO factors. So what is off-page SEO? In the simplest terms, it's anything you do outside of your search to impact your search rankings, largely built around authority, your relevance, and the trustworthiness. So I always put myself in the mind of Google and thinking, what is Google trying to do? If I search for something, they want to show me the results that are going to give me the best answer, because then I'm going to keep coming back and using Google. The same thing goes for Bing or any other search engine you might be using. And so the ways one of the ways they're doing this in terms of offsite to help people identify these is authority. They want to connect you to authoritative sources, knowing that they probably have better information. So something like a university, they're going to give a lot of authority to, or it could be if you're searching for something like reviews on your dishwasher, or maybe you're looking for reviews of a new movie, they're going to give you that site that has a lot of authority that they believe in more than something that they're not sure where it comes from. Also looking for relevance, the content and topics that are associated with those links to determine the relevance. So they want to give you something that's going to answer your question or give you what you're looking for, so you believe in their service. And the last is trustworthiness, looking to see that are you a reputable site, and is the search results from something that people trust and that they can trust. In the end of the day, you're building a brand. I think of it, you're building a brand really for two people. You're building a brand for your customers, and a brand that they're going to love, and you're building a brand in the eyes of Google. And links are wonderful, but Google looks at non-link reputation signals as well. So one of the basics to setting up off-page SEO is your different business profiles. These can exist in a number of different places. There are profiles that can link back to your site. Never a bad thing to have too many backlinks falling into your site. Something like Google My Business is a great place where you can appear, helping you to appear in different Google Maps results and appearing as rich snippet stars. We're going to touch a little bit more on rich snippets and rich snippet stars later.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback on that, I'm a big fan of making a profile on any site I can think of. So you mentioned Google Business is obviously should be the first one that you do. So basically getting anything that you can. Big Cookie Monster fan, and I always say, like, you got to be the Cookie Monster of getting quality backlinks. So there's a big difference between quality backlinks and just garbage backlinks. So there are sites out there that have a lot of black hat ways that they've been doing things, or things that they shouldn't be doing that they've been penalized from Google for. So you want to make sure that the sites you're getting backlinks from are reputable and are actually worth getting backlinks from. So what you're going to want to make sure you focus on is, I'm a big fan of Moz too. We look at people who have a domain authority typically larger than our own when we're working with someone or when we're working with our clients. Or you're going to want to focus on making sure that they have a good reputation, which you can look in through Moz, or you can even look into on their other social profiles. So I actually found this a while ago, and we didn't make this, although I'd love to take credit for it. At the end of this, we'll send out an email, and I have a link to this because obviously it's a little difficult to read all these. But these are 51 websites where you can go and create a profile, and it will actually count as a backlink for you. So it's 51 immediate backlinks you can get right now. You just go create a profile. You don't have to keep it updated. You don't have to do anything crazy like that. You can actually just go set up a profile. Obviously, make sure you put your URL in there, and you'll get a backlink from that. So it's an immediate 51 of these guys that you can get. I'm hoping to grow this list out as time goes on, but it's as simple as going to go to evernote.com and create a profile there, and then you'll just immediately get a backlink from them. It's the same thing with Moz and with BuzzFeed and with all these. So building backlinks and relationships. So there's a ton of ways that you can build backlinks, and one of them obviously is to partner with people and do a little bit more of an in-depth partnership. Obviously, I put a big thanks to Trustpilot, because that's literally what we're doing right now. But doing things like shared blog posts or backlink sharing, just basic backlink sharing. So shared blog posts, to give you guys an example, what we do or what we do with our clients is we find a company that's similar to ours or a company that's similar to some of our clients, and we'll do a shared blog post. So we'll write a piece of content to put on the other company's website. Obviously, it will link to us, but it'll be relevant to their audience. Then we'll get the backlink. They'll do the same thing. So we get the free content, and now they're getting a backlink to their own website. Of course, you can do a little bit more of a slower roll with that, where you can basically just look at their existing content on their site and say, hey, I noticed you linked to this. I'd love if you also link to this on our page, and you can do the same for them. Of course, you can do more with a partnership program that kind of falls outside the scope of SEO. But for instance, we do a ton of social media sharing. We'll do live videos. We'll get that transcribed, things like rev.com, and post those, and we'll make sure to reach back out to the partner and make sure that they share that. Or you can do, of course, webinars like we're doing right now. So for instance, when we finish this webinar, we will probably transcribe it, put it up on our website, and link to Trustpilot because they did it with us. So of course, Trustpilot's going to get the backlink. So that's kind of how you can start to build these partnerships and piggyback on the off-page SEO strategy.
Another one related, somewhat similar, partnering with an influencer to gain the trust. These influencers have an audience, people that are looking to them to say, hey, what do I do with my marketing? How do I do this? Whatever your niche may be. And you can build off of their trust with their audience. One of my favorite strategies personally is an expert roundup, where if you come up with a single theme, could be a question that you're going to answer, and then create a blog post. It takes a little more work on the front end, but get a number of different influencers just to answer one single question. So it's not as much work for their end, but then you can feature them as well as 10 to 20 other influencers on a single blog post, announce that it's going live, and then you can get them to share out that same post, and you're getting this same post then shared by a number of different influencers because they're mentioned in it. It's sharing their content as well as its useful content to your audience. So it's a good way to if you can assemble it on the front end. An expert roundup is a way to really get a number of influencers to share your content out one by one, and you get a lot of those backlinks coming back to your site.
If you don't mind, if I can chime in on that one a minute, I know that one of the issues that I've always found with influencer marketing is people are always very afraid of, that upfront cost of sometimes working with an influencer, where you first reach out to them and you're like, hey, can you do a blog post for me? And they're like, sure, it's going to be 10 grand. And they're like, whoa, that's way too much. So what we try to do is to focus on, obviously, the social aspect of it, what your actual goal of the influencer campaign is, whether it's brand awareness or it's conversion, et cetera. But we always want to keep in mind, you do get that, that backlink from their blog or from whichever website that they're utilizing. So we can always focus on that as well and try to say, okay, yes, their engagement's not that great, or their viewership's not that great, or their conversion's not that great, but maybe their domain authority through Moz is really good, and it's going to help our website too, which is going to help us as time goes on. So there is always that little extra from doing stuff with influencers that can really help start to build your brand even after they've done the post.
That's a great point. Another one to talk about, review platforms. So many people we talk to, it's amazing. People have these companies and brands, and it's about thinking about your customer's journey. And people searching for your brand, what do they find? So a good way to test it, if you just go to Google and you were to type your company name and the word reviews, see what shows up for those search results. Because that, for a lot of companies, it's a search term that gets a fair amount of traffic. It's the skeptical shopper sitting there, perhaps already looking at your site and thinking, this all looks good, but they're just doing that little bit of research. And if you're not sure what that search result is yielding for your company or your brand, it's one to be aware of. And listing yourself on review platforms, building up a reputation to highlight this to your customers is a way to just give them that little bit of nudge and a little bit of extra confidence in your platform. Other search terms to check, even just type in the word is and then your company name, and see what Google auto suggests. And oftentimes you find, like, is company legit? Is company fair? Are they reputable? And all of those will end up linking back to these review sites like Trustpilot. And so the impact of customer reviews on how does it reduce customer acquisition costs and how does it help? It's really, if you talk, it's not a big stretch for most people these days. When's the last time you bought something online without considering the reviews? When's the last time you booked a hotel without considering what the reviews of that hotel were. When's the last time you went and saw a movie without having any idea of what people thought about it? So for most people, reviews are coming into play somewhere in their buying decision, and it's about how do you get your reviews, or your customers, their opinions and their experiences that you can share, how do you get them in different places throughout that buyer journey? And just giving people that little nudge of confidence. So for some people, it's in that Google search before they land on your site. For some people, it's right as they're in the basket about to check out, or even in cart abandonment, and if you're doing cart abandonment emails, that type of things. That little friendly nudging of, you know what, people are really happy with the service we provide, and here's some stars to prove it. It can have a huge impact on your bottom line. And it also then helps you get seen in search. So one way you get new content with product reviews, I can speak for Trustpilot specifically. Product reviews can show up on your site, and it's content that's constantly updated by your customers that's relevant to those product pages every time somebody leaves a review. So you put in the product review widget, and you're getting this review content that's constantly helping to give your site some SEO terms. That's more on-site than off-site, but it's new content for your site. The second is more search terms. So it's those skeptical customers searching for your brand name in reviews and urging customers to giving them that extra confidence they need. You also may think about high domain authority, mentioning authority again, and seeing that higher authority site is going to be what appears in those search results. And visibility. Google takes reviews seriously. It counts for a lot of their search terms because customers take reviews seriously. So it all comes back. I mentioned this a little bit before, just rich snippets. Rich snippets are little lines of text, and we specifically talk a lot about rich snippet stars. You can see in a search result, the space is limited. Andrew mentioned at the beginning, like, when's the last time you went to page 2 of Google, or even below that fold? And so anything that can give you to help your site stand out can make a big impact. You can see, imagine this is the search result you got. By having stars that show up, it can help people get so many more clicks. We've seen 35%, 45% click-through rate increase by people having stars appear to their site. And those rich snippet stars can appear from product reviews. That's what I think we see happening here for Lens Direct, based on a specific product. It can also happen from your service reviews, going to specific pages like About Us. So different pages and different schema markup to make sure that these reviews are appearing before somebody even lands on your site, and improving that trust with them. And there's two different, so getting these stars in search, it's huge for most companies. There's two types you can see here. The top one is on an ad. That's coming from Google Seller Ratings, where you can generate in Trustpilot, and the verified reviews from Trustpilot will go towards this rating. It, on average, will get you a 10% higher click-through rate on the same ads without ratings. And the other one is in those organic search results, linking back to your site, where it can have a 45% lift in organic search. And like Andrew said, this is in a lot of ways like an investment in your site. It's not just the extra expense of advertising, but investing in an asset for your business. Finally, it's giving yourself some trust symbols to make all of your advertising more efficient. Using reviews, it's not about doing anything new. It's about doing what you're doing today and doing it all a little bit better. So adding reviews on site in different parts of that buyer's funnel, whether it's on product pages or checkout pages, you can see a huge conversion increase. I think one of the best we've ever seen is that 130% conversion increase. And a strange thing happens with people where you start to show some stars and people start to trust a company more. Basket sizes also get bigger. So you can see an even bigger uplift in sales. New York Dress is the example in the middle. They put this on their cart abandonment email and saw a 220% click-through rate back to their site by including this in their email marketing. And the last one would be retargeting ads, where Vivint did a test where they did with and without ads, and it resulted, all of the ones with the ratings that they use, Trustpilot ratings and reviews in their ads, got a much higher click-through rate. So getting more people back to your site through the advertising you do today.
Blasting out the content. So this is always the biggest thing. This always really interests me. We find so many people who create, these really awesome blog posts with a ton of infographics, or, like 15 different interviews from people, or links to really cool stuff, or stuff you can download. They do all this crazy stuff. They put it on their site, and then they just sit there and they do nothing about it, and then wait for it to build traction. And it's not magical. It's not just going to happen. So basically, this is always one of the biggest issues I've found, is that The way that the Google's algorithm works, especially on, kind of an off page, they've taken a couple pages out of Amazon's book. So, like you mentioned, reviews are helping a lot, and it's really just because of social proof. They want the average consumer to tell them whether it's good or not, which is why backlinks work, because it's basically a trustworthiness. Hey, so many websites link to your page that this page must be trustworthy, so we're going to give it a higher authority, and then it's going to drag all the other pages up with it. So basically what's happening is you kind of have to prime the pump, right? You have to start getting people into the page. You have to start getting people to start talking stuff. So obviously you're going to want to contact anyone you mentioned in your blog post. So whether you referenced another company, or if you referenced, an author of a book or a product of some kind, you're going to want to tag them on Twitter, send them an email if you can, do anything that you can to let them know, hey, I mentioned you guys, just wanted to let you know. Of course, it would be great if you shared it to kind of help. Maybe they'll send it to their audience if they really liked it. Then, of course, you have Pinterest, you have other social media ways that you can drive stuff. Instagram, you can add it into your bio. We've all seen the link in bio posts, or if you have to swipe up on stories. Another thing is Google is not instantaneous. It's not an immediate, oh, I posted on my website and now it's going to crawl. You actually, if you want things to work a little bit faster, you can go into a Google Search Console, make sure you're all verified and all that fun stuff in there. But you can actually request Google to index your site right away. So every time we launch a new blog post, we immediately take it into Google Search Console, and we want to index it as fast as we can. The other thing that we've noticed is that LinkedIn we've started to use on a personal side is we'll take it. So if I authored a blog post, basically, I will take a good chunk of that blog post and create one of those LinkedIn post article things. And you can basically write half of it or a good portion of it. And then for the rest of this blog post, please click here and read the rest. And it's going to help start to build some of that traction if you have a bit of a LinkedIn following, or even if you have a small following that's just very dedicated. Quora is another great way. I've seen this work a lot more and more. I've seen Quora really start to pick up lately, where you can go and answer questions on Quora and, of course, link to your blog post saying, like, this is where I got this information from. And it just so happens that people are going to click there to see what that information is. Then, obviously, there's Reddit. I always say be careful with Reddit because people on Reddit are really, really mean. If you come off like you're trying to promote something, or if you're trying to, like, you're clearly trying to sell something, people on Reddit will chew you apart. So I would say be careful with the ways you post that, but it is a great way to get a lot of traction if you can do it correctly. And then, of course, there's the blog sharing website. So there's a few out there that work really well. We know a bunch for marketing. They can be a little difficult to find for other companies, other sellers, and things like that. But there are basically companies that will, or websites that will feature your blog post and post it. So you can always look into a certain niche and see if there's anything out there that will feature your blog post.
So this is the end of our webinar about regarding offline SEO, but we're happy to take some questions. If people wanted to, sorry, I should have mentioned this one at the start, but if you have questions or any thoughts and wanted to share them in the side panel, you're welcome to share with us now.
Questions. So these are fun. I love hearing these because these are always interesting. So I know we had one earlier about how to get the quality backlinks without writing content. That's always a really tricky question, basically because what I've found is you have to reach out to people and you have to basically have someone who's siphoning through blog posts. The best way you can do it is to do kind of like some keyword research. If you guys have ever set up Google alerts, that's my favorite way of, like, a cheat way to do it, is you can set up a Google alert for certain keywords that are relevant to what you do. Go look through the blog post, see if it's relevant, then reach out to whoever authored it, whether it's via email or it's via LinkedIn, and basically say, like, hey, I noticed you had this blog post. It was a great read. I think we made this infographic a while back and we'd love for you to link to it or something like that. Of course, we would love to link to something for you as well. Anything you can kind of interchange. It is a bit of a project. Usually I find the easiest way to do this is to put a really simple, like, SOP together and have a VA do it, and just have them scraping stuff and put together a really basic plan of here, try to find backlinks this way. But that really seems to be the best approach on that. Brandon, I think this one's a little bit more for you. So how is it they can get rich snippets on their website? I know that's obviously one of the great Trustpilot things, so I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, it's good. It's not, it's nothing Trustpilot invented. Rich snippets come from Google. And it has to do with schema markup that you put on your code. There's a number of rules around it. Like you can't get rich snippets stars on your homepage. It's just, I mean, it's Google's rules. They just don't allow it. But you can get rich snippets on any product page, on a number of other key linking pages. A lot of people put it on an About Us page, or they'll create a reviews page on their own website and put reviews in. So with Trustpilot, we have different widgets people can put on their site. It's pretty easy. It's a cut and paste. If you're using e-commerce integrations, it's even easier than that. If any of the major e-commerce stores. And we constantly monitor, update, and make sure that this sort of schema markup is up to date and latest standard and will work for your site. But it is something people can code in themselves, but it's just a little bit of work to do and to make sure you're doing it right and monitoring it. A much easier way is if you find a widget, something like we do at Trustpilot, that can just cut and paste and get it there for you.
Nice. Yeah, those rich snippets, they really they blow my mind. It amazes me how many people, we end up working with who haven't done it before. And yet it's like the stars that show up on Google that come from an Amazon page, those have great conversion rates. I don't know why someone wouldn't want to do it for their own site. Like it's not even the fact that they're the stars or it's a rating, but also that slight difference in color really makes you drag your eye straight to it. So if you're searching for something that's even relevant to a product and you're sitting on page one and you have that little rich snippet there, it's amazing how fast that conversion rate can go up.
Yeah, and anything that gives you one extra line of real estate, just something to push down competitors a little bit more. And it's interesting, check some of your main terms, because if none of the people are pulling rich snippets, you can get a huge boost in your conversion rates. If somebody else is, then it's a good chance that you probably need to play catch up to make sure you're at least on par.
Yeah. So, and from what I mentioned earlier about contacting potential partnering companies, so how would I contact them? So basically, it's not as hard as it seems. Contacting a company to work with them, most of the time they're not going to turn you down, especially if you can give them a great way to do it. Again, I'm a big fan of outsourcing. After I kind of learned how to do something the way I'd like to do it, I give it to someone else. And I have someone now who helps me with this stuff, where they basically are just finding companies that are relevant to our clients or relevant to us. And they reach out to them and basically say like, hey, we would love to partner with you and do some shared, do some shared blog posts, do some shared social media posts or something like that, really because we have the same audience. And I'd love to introduce my audience to you because I love what you guys do. And of course, we would like to do the same. So it's as simple as finding a contact on their website, reaching out in a contact form. LinkedIn is another great way. LinkedIn has really gotten pretty annoying with the people reaching out saying like, hey, I have an offer for you. But I really just start out with an introduction of, hey, my name's Andrew. I love your site. I think we have the same, customer base. I would love to talk to you about possibly doing some partnership stuff and make it really easy. Remember, you're talking to people, not to a business, so you can really try to sell it that way. But LinkedIn, email, even Twitter, sometimes I still use that for direct contact. But yeah, that tends to be the best way I've seen it.
Keep it short, make it easy to say yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you show them the benefit that they're going to get, why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you do it? There's literally nothing. There's nothing you lose out of it. I think this one's. Can you explain a little bit more about how Google determines the relevance factor to off-page SEO? Brandon, you want to take that one?
It's going to be tough. So no one knows. Google search algorithm is at its core a pretty highly guarded secret. Like nobody knows exactly how it works. We refer to Moz a lot and look at them. As well as a couple of other sites. We've used SEMrush and these different authoritative sites that kind of have insight to, especially as Google updates and what works. Ultimately, to me, it's a little bit, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, I see it a little bit almost like a brick wall, right? It's not about any single brick. There's no real silver bullet that's going to magically make your site appear on page one. And people who are promising we'll get you on page one, you might want to be a little wary. But it's about completing a number of different bricks and building up a solid foundation on-site and off-site. So it's 50-50. And doing a number of all these different strategies and covering all your bases. And it's there's ways that will help you get some little jumps, like rich snippets can help you stand out and draw people's eyes. But ultimately it's about doing things well over time and investing in your site and investing off-site to get long-term success. I totally agree.
when I get that question of like, how can we get to page one? Like it is the most frustrating question. It's like someone saying like, how do I make this social post go viral, right? Like there's just so many things that have to fall in line for it to happen. But honestly, like you can focus really heavily on an off-page strategy, but you still have to have an on-page strategy. You can get a ton of backlinks, but have a really horrible bounce rate, or you can have a really bad mobile experience. I think it was, I want to say it was August or July of last year, I think, is when Google announced that they're indexing mobile websites first now. It's 2019. If your website's not mobile friendly by now, like you really shouldn't even bother being on the internet. But at the same time, like that is what they have. So that's how you need to work it. So you have to make sure your site's mobile friendly. You have to focus on your bounce rate. You have to focus on your page speed. You have to focus on time spent on page. Really, almost everything that you can find in Google Analytics is really relevant to what's actually going to affect that relevance score. But there really is no silver bullet to just do this and you'll be great. So it looks like those are all the questions I had. Yeah, so I think that's all we got. So obviously, really appreciate everyone joining us today. Brandon, of course, Trustpilot, you guys are awesome. Love chatting with you guys. So if anyone wants to reach out, feel free to reach out. You can always contact me. My email is andrew@sellerschoice.digital. Of course, I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all that fun stuff at Andrew Maff, or you can reach out to Seller's Choice. Obviously, I'll contact you guys there too. If you ever have any questions you want to talk about off-page SEO or anything else for that matter, we're always here.
Yeah, brilliant. Likewise, guys, get in touch with us at Trustpilot. I'm actually based in our office in Copenhagen. I know this is most people in the U.S. I'm American myself, so I'm a little bit off on time zones. But the best way, just come to Trustpilot.com. Check out your own business if you haven't yet. Connect with us, connect with your customers, and we look forward to hearing from you.